Bow, bow, bow. Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of Pillow Talk. Today with me I have Kashia on my right.
Hello.
And I have Ashley with me on my left. Two of my good friends in real life, okay? And some of the conversations we're going to be having today is just some things just been on our heart lately. And so we're going to dive right into that, and I think that you guys will find this to be illuminating for what's been floating around as the modern woman or what a woman should be. And so with that, I just want to start with, so tell me about, because how long have you been married?
It'll be 10 years in July.
Okay.
Yes.
So walk me through how that started, how that began, and what you've had to overcome within it, right?
Do we have time? No,
okay, right? And just in a way that it's just like, man, okay, boom, here was this point where I had to grow and overcome this, and just as a woman in your own journey.
Right.
So
we started dating pretty young. We were 16 in high school. And so that changed the whole dynamic of the relationship, because what relationship in your junior year is going to, lead to marriage.
Right.
And so, of course, we dealt with a bunch of, kid stuff, up and downs. And we didn't get married until we were 27.
Okay.
And I think it took a lot of growing for us individually first before we got married. But after we did get married, the first year was the hardest. We had never been together. It was brand new people.
Yeah.
And people always say, marriage doesn't change anything. That's a lie.
Right.
That's a lie. It's a mentality thing, I think, for the man.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure, but I think it's a mentality thing for the man that changes. But I don't know if expectations for the woman may be what changes.
Right.
But that first year was a struggle.
Sure, the expectations for the women.
I definitely, thank God we made
it.
And so through that time, for me, it was finding myself. My husband would always tell me, focus on yourself sometimes. Don't always worry about us.
Right.
Find yourself. Find things that you're interested in, your own hobbies. And I'd be like, I want to, but I don't know what I want to do. I'm a Gemini, so I'm all over the place. I want to do everything. But consistency for me was the key, what I was missing.
Right.
And so I started praying about it and just making it kind of a focus for me. I really want to find something I'm passionate about that I can be consistent about. And then that came Beats for me.
Right.
It came during the pandemic. I was praying about it, and I just wanted some of my own. And then through that, it was I'm feeling this. I love this. I want to tie other women and give that experience to them.
Right.
And it just kind of grew from there. And that's one thing that I've been so consistent with, that I just know, it was a gift. It was what I've been asking for. So I would say one lesson that I learned is not losing yourself when you're in a relationship, whether you're married or not. Because people always I feel like my relationship isn't any different from the next person that's not married.
Right.
You know what I mean? We're still in this, they're in this together, we're in this together.
I know we always look at it this crystal ball, there's married.
But for me, there's no marriage club.
Right.
Because it's hard. It's really a struggle. And that person can be with that person over there for 30 years and not be married and be happy and it be what they want it to be, versus that person that was married 2 years and they didn't make it. So sometimes you don't have to put a title on it. Everybody's different. So it's really, again, what works for you.
Right.
And I always say, I wanted to get married because I wanted to do what's right in the eyes of God. But now I know God knows my heart. And if I had to go back, I wouldn't force him to be as, quick to get married as if he wasn't ready.
Right.
So, for him, he's always had a kind of a negative view on marriage. And mine has always just been but we've been together so long, da-da-da-da. Now I'd be like, girl, hush, just chill.
Just ride it out, right.
Your relationship is going to be what it is if you put what you're supposed to into it.
Right.
But having the title doesn't change, the meaning of it for you too.
Right. And I feel like we look at that, and thank you for sharing that, because I feel like that is that's, I'm sure, what a lot of people don't expect to hear from a married woman. They're just well, here's this magical potion, and this is what you do to get him to commit and walk you down the aisle.
Right.
And it's not that.
And it's cute. No, it's not.
Right.
I mean, you're going to go through a lot of different things that are going to be heartbreaking.
Yeah.
You're going to have to forgive. You're going to have to grow. You're going to have to really be intentional about what you want. And it's just, I mean,
the commitment to ride it out and to stay and making that choice every day.
Yes. I mean, those vows are serious.
Absolutely.
You really have to, be writing for that person.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It has to really be what you want. So, you know, don't get married because everybody always says, y'all should get married. Y'all been together for 15 years. No, let it be something that y'all really want to do.
Right.
You know, that you're both ready to do.
And make sure y'all like each other.
And make
first.
sure y'all like each other.
Simple as that. Make sure you like him. Do you like him? Do you like her?
Yes, make
You
sure you're
know?
willing to grow for that, like
Absolutely.
with that person. I won't say for that person, but with that person. You know, you don't want to be left behind. So
For sure. So, Ashley, what do you think about you've been in the game? You in the game, right? You kind of not. I wouldn't say game, right? But we're
always-
kind of. You and I both are not. We're not married.
Right.
We're not in a relationship, right? So it's like, well, talk about how that experience has been as of late. Just how it's been for you. As of lately, or even just like from your experiences, just having. You know, there may be men knocking on your door, but what are they really talking about? And what's your experience been with that?
It's been a lot of experience. I have been engaged twice, but you know what is so funny is that, you know, when people get engaged, they're like, we're going to get married on this day. This, I'm gonna wear this.
Right.
I never made the plans.
Right.
And I'm thankful I never made the plans. Something was like pulling me back.
right.
It was like that pressure that most women put on themselves. You know, I want to be married. You know, I have a daughter. She's 13.
Right.
So I kind of struggled with including her into these relationships. And something just, my spirit rejected it.
Right.
You know. Right now, as far as marriage goes, it's kind of like I would love to experience. I would love to have it.
Right.
Am I dating intentionally? Absolutely. That's something that we discuss.
Right.
Is it something that's like, am I like, you know, I want to be married in 3 years.
Right.
After 3 years, no.
No.
Right.
It's nothing like that because I've seen how that goes.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, many a times, and including me, I used to do this back in, you know, my spring chicken days.
Right.
You know what I mean? When I was young, I used to do that. Like,
Right.
I'm only date you for a year. You need to be talking.
And let's dive into that,
marriage.
like that whole thing that we kind of go through, or that we feel pressure to go through in our 20s of, you know, I'm just gonna be a bad bee, and I'm gonna let it do what it do, and if it's not about a bag, you can't talk to me, and it's like, well, how do you feel like that shifted with, you know, as you went and learned some lessons?
Right.
I think I left a lot of that behind when I turned 30.
Right.
Life after 30 is so transformative. I don't even want to be a bad bee.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, where I'm at now, I would never want to go back.
Right.
Because I don't have nothing to prove no more.
That's
Oh,
it.
You know what I mean?
That's
I have nothing to prove no more.
That's the
Like, I'm great. I'm a good person. I
Right.
show up every day for
Yes,
my
ma'am.
people, my daughter.
That's it.
And, you know, God blesses me. I'm going to show up like that for my husband. I'm not interested in any of this stuff. I'm going to leave it for, you know, the young bucks to figure it out.
Right.
And they gonna take
gonna
it too.
figure it out.
Find
Yeah.
a way.
And they gonna eat it up because they know which
Yeah.
ones to go
Yeah,
for.
they're
Yeah.
going to figure
Right.
it out. I
Right.
did that for them.
Right.
Hey, if this is what you like to do.
Right.
And I think you brought up a good point about, and I think that paired well with yours, was like where you're not getting sucked into what you're doing with a man, right?
Right.
And I think so often some of the younger women will think like, oh, there's something to protect and defend all the time, and there's this ego involved, and a lot about what you kind of spoke about in your long-term relationship, to where it's like, well, a lot of that has to be left at the door if
Yeah.
you want to make it work and make it work long-term.
Right.
We can't talk about goals and wanting something constantly and then not be willing to put in the work. And a lot of that is dying to ego
That's it.
and what you want. And the boss bee mentality kind of goes directly against that.
Right.
And so I
Right.
just think that is a great, that brings me to my next point about what we think. Y'all know Kevin Samuels, right? Let me just dive into it. I feel like
Okay.
his name is almost a hot button.
Right. It
Like
is.
it's like you say it, it's like,
It is.
you know?
Yeah.
What are your first thoughts about Kevin? Do you agree
Look
with
at
any of
Kashia's
his
face.
points?
I don't think I've watched him enough to have heavy thoughts, but when I do watch him, I
Yeah.
feel like I don't know, he's so like disrespectful. Like I
Yeah.
feel like he's not, like he just wants you to listen, be quiet, listen.
Because a lot of times he is addressing these younger women, these
Yeah.
bad bee women.
Yeah.
What's your dress size? What's your age?
Yeah, but I feel like who he's targeting is who's calling, because I'm definitely not calling Kevin Samuels.
Okay.
Absolutely.
You definitely can't.
Point.
I mean, if we're gonna have
Gotta
like
do
a
it.
yeah. So there's like, I guess there's a target area for him, what he's trying to reach. And there are people that, like for the men, I know he's trying to give them confidence and, help them, hold their head
Right.
up, but the things that I've seen have not been positive. Like, that's not, like, the way he talks is not, like, inspiring or encouraging. It's not motivating, so it's not for me.
I
so
understand.
I haven't done it. I don't want to judge him too heavy, but he be talking crazy, and I can't. I'd be the one on the phone like,
Yeah.
you got one more time.
Yeah.
I'm hanging up. I'm just going to hang up. So, yeah.
Oh,
I don't know.
man.
He said, I am not calling.
I can't.
I know that's right.
Do you share the
can't.
same thoughts with Kashia mainly, or what do you think?
I've seen glimpses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some women, it's almost like they know what they're going to get when they call.
Facts.
And then I think it just goes back to the
They
whole
ready for the smoke.
cloud era.
Yeah.
I was on with Kevin's girl.
Right.
I know you really feel a way about it, but you're allowing him. Why are you calling him? You know what I mean? You know what he's going to say.
Right.
And I feel like he really just hates single women, more than one child, and highly successful women. I feel like he has an issue with, if you are successful, it's almost like he tries to take that away from you. And I can't figure out what that's about.
Yeah.
I don't want to figure out what that's about. And I really feel like he just don't want a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I have to,
Go ahead, Alex.
I got
Okay, before you do that, but I also feel like the people that call him lack confidence, so he's able to do whatever do or say whatever he wants to them.
Yeah.
Because they don't have the confidence to speak up or the knowledge to stand. You know what I mean?
For sure.
On the path.
He talks to him in circles. He's an educated man.
Yes, he is.
Right. So it's like, if you get on the phone with him, if you don't have your point together,
Right.
he will talk you out the room.
Right.
And so it's like, okay, I'm
Right.
going to go bye-bye now.
Right.
And it's like, you're right. So,
Absolutely.
and it's like, and I feel like speakers like him can make you feel like, even though you began the call not believing him, now I kind of agree with you. And that's only
Right.
because you overtalked me. And that's two different things. You didn't make your point, but you overtalked me. But I feel like I think that I watch him in my free time, because I think to some of the points, and I'm not going to lie, some of the points that he's made has helped me to be a better woman.
Tell me how, please.
And that's because I have learned, to your point earlier about protecting and defending, right? I went into this whole other half of my life after 25, 26, and even before that. Well, so before this, I was very much on the I have to defend, I have to I'm aggressive, I'm definitely operating more in my masculine, and it didn't go very well for me. Right. And I think potentially, one of the things he says is that a lot of potentially good women have a long list of men behind them that could have worked, but something happened to where it didn't. And I'm not saying it's innately always the woman's fault,
Right.
but I know after looking back on so many relationships that I've had, and not so many because I ain't out there like that.
That's
y'all.
it, right?
Okay, but I have to look and analyze and get self-aware about how the fact that I was not showing up as my best self.
Right.
I was showing up in a very masculine way. And not to say that I did not, and this was a defense mechanism that I learned, right? And I had to be in that in order to, I feel like, get things done. I'm a single mom, so I have to show up in a certain way, and I had trouble turning that parental energy off in the home or when I was with these men, and then would often want them to prove to me the reason why I should respect them. And that should be the case. But then I started going, and I'm kind of being more intentional now with my thought process, and I wouldn't be fully truthful if I didn't say that Kevin Samuels didn't play some part in that. Because so often I feel like men struggle putting into words how they feel on their side of the relationships and what they want concisely and logically and in clear speech from a woman so that they can show it better as a man. And we can have the argument back and forth where it's like, man, like, I feel like, well, women have to boss up and do this because men aren't responsible enough to lead a household anymore, which is a good point, right? But I digress. I say all that to say that I just feel like I had to listen to some of the things that he said, and I was like, okay, like, so for instance, he'll have some women on there sometimes, and he's not always like attacking them. Sometimes he'll have women on there where they're like, yeah, this is, as a woman, I had to learn how to be more feminine to where I had to sit up with my back straight, right? And I had to, that in our feminine, we're oftentimes more in control than we think we are, but in a soft way. And it's like, when you're just at a bar and you're kind of, you're showing your neck a little bit, or you're just giving that look. I never learned any of these things. I'm thinking, like, I'm still in high school, and it's just like, I like you, I want you, what's up? You know what I'm saying? And I'm coming at you like.
Right.
And so that led me down a path where I was thinking a lot about and kind of being more self-aware about how I was showing up. And there was one thing, and I'll end with this. There was one thing that he said that stuck out, and he was like, well, a lot of women, he was like, women think that they know that men are simple. And that's not the case at all. You just don't know, you don't know men. And it is simple in the fact that for men, it's ego, right? And if our feminine in a way is in support of that, and if with their masculine, they can be in support of our feminine, it's a lot easier to kind of ride that bicycle, right? For that to move in that direction. So when it became easy. Now when I have interactions with men in my life where it's just like, oh, they're operating mainly out of ego.
Right.
The masculine that I was so used to dealing with, it's like, well, okay, let me talk to you nice. Okay, honey. You know what I mean? Like, well, instead of just like, well, I feel like da-da-da-da, it's like, okay, well, I like it. I would like it if you did this more often. And
It's that saying.
Communicating,
when they say
yeah.
You catch
Yeah.
more
Right.
bees with honey or
Right.
whatever my mom always told me. that.
yeah.
Always.
Right.
I feel like I get a lot more accomplished when I operate without being aggressive.
Yeah.
I know how to be aggressive.
That's it. Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
But only when business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
You know how to turn it off. And I've known you for a few years now. I'm just now getting to know you. And I know that when I can speak to how I've seen you operate, and a lot of that, I love to learn from all my friends. And I always, I'm like,
Right.
I'm taking this from her and this from her,
Yeah.
you know? And so that is one thing that I've seen is just like where, you can turn on that feminine when needed. And then when it's like, okay, well, we gonna talk about it now. And it's a different energy. But when you're dealing with a man in your life, the energy that you bring to him is not going to be the same that you bring to your friends,
Absolutely not.
to your daughter, to your brother, even. But even to your brother, there's that respect as masculine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know how to comfort my brother
Yeah.
in time of sadness, darkness.
Right.
Right.
I also know how to talk to my man if he is struggling,
Right.
lost his game,
Right.
whatever. I always find the words.
Talk about that a little bit,
I also
because
know how to talk to, somebody playing some games.
Right.
Right.
she has been the one.
Absolutely. Look.
What we're not going to do is that.
Hold on, wait, hold on, wait.
Because pause, stop, because I can already tell
Look.
that this ain't where it need to be,
Look.
right?
Look.
Okay, and has had to get me together a few times. But it's like, I want you to talk about that a little bit, because and also just how that shows up in your marriage. And then also, I know that from when I've seen your dating relationships, you're very much, you go above and beyond to support. And I feel like you really make them feel good to be in their masculine. And it's like, well, talk about, for the listeners, for the younger girls in their early 20s, how do you, when they're saying, oh, I want these as goals, or they want these type of men, to be able to receive them in that way, what does that look like to you? Or broken down for the...
Having myself together, showing up for myself. Oh, yeah. Okay. Having myself together, showing up for myself, having some business for myself.
Yeah.
My life cannot be his life. I
Right.
cannot be on every single thing he has going on.
Right.
And not being fearful with my words, not being afraid to express myself. I used to be so afraid to tell someone I love them, I care about you, I support you. Now I just be like, I love you, I love you. I love you, like, let's pray before each event, before each,
You're not afraid to...
not at all.
And that is, I feel like so much a part of feminine is
Right.
not being afraid to be expressive in that.
Yeah, so I just express how I feel. Even when I'm upset, when I'm sad, I express how I feel, because to me it's just like, man, what do I really have to lose?
Yeah.
If he's not going to receive it,
Right.
he ain't for me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So all this like acting like you don't care, play the I don't care wars. I'm not going to look at your story.
Yeah.
All of that
Them
stuff
games.
is out the window.
Right.
And it's a struggle. Like you really have to choose the higher road. Like me and my man was arguing the other day, and I almost was like, we're not going to play the I don't
Right.
care wars.
Right.
Yeah.
But good thing is that I've already established this openness between him and I that we can express.
Right.
And it's corrected and we move forward. I've never had that before.
Right.
It's always me trying to fix things.
Not you guys against the problem together.
Yeah, it's
Right.
not us against each other. It's
Right.
us on one side.
Right.
Not
Good.
us like this.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't play that. I don't play those games no more. Like I'ma block you. I mean, I will still hit a block.
Block.
I will.
Well,
You will block and bless you.
I say, I stop blocking them.
Peace and blessings, King. Gotta go.
Yeah.
And that's
Have a good
okay.
one.
That's about knowing what you worth,
Yeah.
honey. Okay.
But some
Yeah.
people really don't deserve access.
It's true.
And sometimes you gotta cut it
Absolutely.
all the way off.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I do.
Yes.
Yeah. But to everything that you just said, that's why I say like being married and being like dating is
Yeah.
not that much different because you're still learning in these relationships.
Right.
And everything that you learned while dating, whoever it was that you were dating, you learned for the next relationship what I don't want to do and what I would like to do.
Yes.
For sure.
What I would like to implement. And I feel like that's what I've learned with him. And he is a real he is a goal setter. Like he wakes up, he goes to sleep with the goals for the next day.
That's
like
dope.
the goals for the next week. Like
Yeah.
so for me I wasn't like that. I was
Yeah.
just like I don't know what I want to do. Like,
Now,
I'm-
did that make you feel insecure about
It
your?
did.
Okay.
And so
Yeah.
for me, I was just like, feel like I was being judged. And
Yeah.
so that's where the defense for me early on came from. Because, I'm like, he'd say something and I'd be like, well, and he'd be like, why are you always so defensive? Like, I'm not coming at
What
you.
took you down that road to discovering the root of what that was?
I heard it from him every 5 minutes. No, I'm joking.
You said, okay, finally, I'm gonna let it sink in.
I think I finally heard it. No, you know what it was? It was a book club that I was in. It was a book club that I was in, and we were reading this book, and something really hit. And I don't know. It wasn't like, so now he thinks I'm manipulative sometimes, the way that I respond or the way that I, Right. And it's not that. It's just like I've kind of learned how to choose my battles, when it's like, really worth it or when it's like like I'm not gonna trip about because I'm the type of person like I can get mad about something but I'll kind of hold it in sometimes because it's not worth it. Like this is something that I'm tripping about. I'll get over it. Let me move on.
Man, is that something that I'm learning slowly but surely?
Yeah,
Not everything
so-
needs to be spoke about.
Not everything. So I
this
kinda
is something
choose-
I'm tripping about.
Is this
I'm
internal?
gonna use that.
Right.
Yeah,
Or
I'm
external?
tripping.
Right. Or I'll
Yeah.
know he'll feel some type of way about something and I'll kind of be like in my head to think about it because I am a Gemini, so I do everything in my head first before I do it out loud.
Right.
And so then I'll be like, well, this happened today. How do you feel about this? And I'll be like, I'm already ready for his response. That's how where the defense comes into play at.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I already know.
I have a habit of
I've
doing
played
that
it
too.
out. I know what he's gonna say, so I'm like, but wait, no, that's not how. It's like I set myself up sometimes.
It's like, well, why did you ask me then?
Right. Right. So I've learned to kind of listen and hear
Yeah.
him. Listen and hear him. Don't set yourself up for your response yet. Just listen to what he said. And then most of the times I could be like, I hear where you're coming from. Like,
Yes.
this makes sense because I hear you saying. And that's what, you kind of take from that. Repeat
Yeah.
that so they understand, like, this is what you meant or this is
And
what
it feels
you were
silly at
meaning by-
first when you do that.
It does.
So what I hear you saying is,
Right.
okay.
Right.
And then really actually, because sometimes there would be sometimes where I'd be like, I did not listen to anything you just
Didn't
said.
listen.
I was waiting
Shit
to
he
respond.
said.
And when I actually did start to listen,
Yeah.
I was like, you know
Right.
what? You answered my question.
Right.
I understand where you're coming from with
Right.
this because I would feel the same way if that was how you perceive that
Right.
situation.
Yeah.
And I think what I gathered from this, ladies, is that I don't feel like, I think that as far as the Kevin Samuels subject, I think it's because, well, you were, anomalies. We've realized this already. That's how you guys said his audience and the people that call in are people
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
needs to talk to them that
Right.
way. But in the respect that you guys are saying, I don't think it's that you guys maybe disagree with it. I think it's just like, well, I already did, at this point, it's common sense, right? It's like, well, why not? But it's like, oh, it's so often where the sense don't be common because for the
Right.
longest, I had to just put, like, because and we can get into this. So I really want to touch on this in the podcast at some point. And it's really how our mothers shape our view of how to show up as women.
Yeah.
Because I was, and I'm getting into, I'm like, and I'm thinking about this as I'm like, man, like, my mother raised me to be submissive to the point to where I went completely opposite when I started dating men because she was very much wrapped up in the kids and my dad. And I'm talking about needs more salt and pepper. Thank you. What are we doing?
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's like, well, you don't have no business unless you're doing the laundry, unless you're cooking.
Right.
And that was just their generation. And I saw that so much so to where I saw her identity almost leave. It was fading away.
Right.
So I saw that and I said, y'all not about to do me
That's it.
how y'all did my mom.
it, yeah.
So I'm going to, and so then I went all the way to the other side.
That's it.
And I was very much in my mask and I said, nope, because I know what you're thinking. You ain't going to get me.
Right.
And so the defense
Yes.
and the ego and
Right.
protecting and defending. And this man could want to me no harm.
Right. Right.
But I'm in that space. So how do y'all feel what you've learned from your mothers, how has that shaped you and how you show up in relationship?
I don't know if I was paying attention for a long time, but then I know, like, so my dad passed away when I was in 8th grade. And then after that, my mom did date. And so the choice in men and the way she moved, she moved pretty quick for us. So there was like healing that we didn't get. Right. And so even now we talk about it as like a lesson, like in growth, like, you know, we forgiven each other. Like, but I felt like she was kind of being used sometimes. It turned me into like, I don't play that. Like, I don't like, this is what you're not about to do. Like, you know, so it did bring out a lot of that masculinity in me because, I guess it just depended on if I was in, I don't know how I would have been not in a relationship with Donovan. So there was parts of me that was really sensitive. But like I said, like I'll switch like real quick. Like I'm trying not to go off. Like I'm trying really to be nice, but it's hard. So for me, like seeing her like sometimes not focus on herself or feel like she was taken advantage of, or she just was like lost. Like it just really, even with me being a mother, like it helped me to learn from her mistakes. Yeah. So all her mistakes that she went through, I see them. And I'm like, this is what we're supposed to do, especially as parents. Like I learned from what I didn't get when I was in high school, what I'm about to give my son when he goes to high school next year. Right. So like I always had the mentality of like not judging her because, you know, I was your oldest. This is the first time you're dealing with a daughter in high school. So like, how can I judge you? Because I know how it feels now. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I just learned from those mistakes and learned from the things that she went through and just kind of like put it in the bag and keep going. Like, I'm going to remember this. Right. You know what I mean? But it definitely still had a, like,
it hurts at first. Pain. It's like, man, like, and you're against her. Right. I know that from my experience as a daughter. I was like, oh man, like bumping heads. It's like, oh, I gotta learn how to respect you and understand that you're a human too. Right. Which took time. Right. I mean, how do you feel like that? Did you feel like you had the same experience with that?
You know, I think we hold our parents on a pedestal and forget that they are in fact human. Right. You know, and my mom kind of corrupted my views for a very long time. We're just now in a healing space. But you know, she taught me a lot about men, how I handle men. My dad was in the streets my whole life. She had her gold, she had her car, she had her house, she had her diamonds, she had everything. And then one day it was gone. In reality, kind of sunk in. You know, my dad went away for 9 years, so she kind of had to step up to the plate and take care of her children. Right. That grew her so bitter and so like, what are you going to do for me? Right. That's what I heard pretty much. Right. I mean, this is like my dad went away when I was 9. He came home when I was 16. So it was like a readjustment for the whole family, including her. Right. And when she came home, she's like, you know, I've been taking care of these kids for 9 years. Where's all this money? I'm like, my dad's not about to be in the street no more. Right. That's over with. Right. You know what I mean? That's done. So her fear she has projected onto me. I'm 16. This is when I'm starting to date, starting to talk to boys, whatever. Right. And I led my life in that energy. What can you do for me? And I found myself in just stupid, pointless, dangerous relationships.
Right. So you went almost in the direction of what you saw.
Yeah, what I saw. And you just tolerate. You know, it was a lot that went on in their marriage. Right. With my parents, and it took me a long time to get over that. I probably say when I turned like 27, I ended an engagement, and my dad finally admitted to me, like, it's my fault. And that was like healing. Yeah. But also, you know, like my dad remarried, and he remarried a really, really good woman. And I needed to see real love in a marriage. Right. Yeah. And him and his wife, like, they were perfect. Like perfect. The way that they balanced each other. They taught me about love. My mom still, unfortunately, holds on to a lot of bitterness. But now we have an understanding. I'm like, Mom, I'm not going to live my life like this. Right. She respects it now. Right. I mean, we used to fight. Right. Now when I'm like, oh, I'm talking to so-and-so, or I'm going on a date with so-and-so, she would always be like, well, what do they do? Right. She don't even say that no more. Yeah. Come on, Mom. She don't even talk about growth. She don't even say that no more. She just says, you know what she says? Have a good time. I love it. Yeah. I love it. Because I deserve to have a good time. So yeah, I was in a way like following her footsteps. Right. With all of that, but it's just like
I think that's it. Like, I deserve to have a good time without anything connected to it.
Yeah.
Or attached to it. I think that's
absolutely.
big.
Right.
Absolutely.
Because you can.
Right.
Some people only meant to be there for 11 days.
That's it.
Or
There's
11
seasons.
months.
Right.
2 days. A dinner. You know, it.
Yep.
Who knows?
A trip.
Hey.
And it's about
And then you get blocked.
added to the black party,
Yeah.
and we move
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
And you know, I've
love
always been
it.
as like, let me attach on because I don't know, you know,
Right.
and that's living in scarcity.
Yeah.
That's and that lack will get you right back.
Right.
Is
Absolutely.
lack.
100%.
You know?
100%.
Oh my God, ladies, this was good. This is almost
And
like therapy.
Even, just to go real quick, I think one thing I took also from my mom was I have to do this because nobody else was going to do it for me.
Yes.
So I had to learn with going into a relationship that, you know, relax a little bit. Like, you don't have to do everything. Like, we were in, like, even married, like, 2 years in married, and he'd be like, I got this. Like, relax.
And
like,
that's almost
chill.
like you cussing me out at first.
Right.
Because what you mean
Right.
relax and chill? Because
Right.
until you learn how to really receive that message and,
Yes.
and trust.
Right. It's
Whew.
the trust. Yeah. So I had to learn how to, like, fall back a little bit.
Well,
Like,
and I think we want so much of, well, I want to be in relationship ultimately with a man that knows how to lead. Are we going to give them the room to lead?
right. That's
Absolutely.
it.
You
So I
know-
give Kevin that. I know he
Yes.
speaks on that. So I give that. You have to let the man lead.
Absolutely.
But he has to earn that too.
Yes.
I ain't just gonna hand it over because you.
Just blindly following, like, you know.
Yeah.
Now I've been there. Done
Yeah, yeah,
that.
Well, you look good and you smell good, and it seemed like it. You know what's
No.
going on. You know, we ain't Ray Charles.
Right. That's it.
We know what's going on.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Is there anything else y'all want to add about that?
That's
I feel like it was so good. Thank you, ladies, so much for coming.
You're so welcome.
Thank you. This is like a girls' night. Like I love this.
I really
Sometimes
loved
you really
it.
need this.
Absolutely, it was
yeah.
definitely like
Yeah.
therapy. And I'm so glad you
Like,
came.
I love it. Tell me when we come back.
Absolutely.
Shop
ready.
Sultry Beadworks.
Yes.
Get your waist beads.
If I wanted my waist on camera, I would show y'all what
know.
she did.
Blue.
But
Yes, all your waist bead needs.
The waist beads-
SultryBeadworks.com.
Yeah.
Yes,
yes,
ma'am.
I just
absolutely.
I adore you both.
Yes, and that was,
love it.
you know, doing the waist beads was my own thing. So it's like when I do get off of work and I go home and I focus on my beads, I don't want any disruptions. I've learned to say no.
Yeah.
So sometimes even my son, like he knows like my schedule and my routine, and he has his time, and then I'll be like, boo. Okay, now this is mommy's time. So let me
Yes.
have my time to kind of be in my space and figure out what I need. Because sometimes, you know, you can get off work and be so frustrated and like and overwhelmed, and that's kind of like my peace.
yeah,
You know what I
need
mean?
a moment.
Like, and I've learned to just even do a meditation with that. Like before I touch my beads, getting my mind right, and
Yes.
just being in the right headspace before I create, because I'm trying to be intentional about what I give to other women and what
Yes.
they need
It's
from
a beautiful
me.
thing.
I don't
It
want to
really
give
is.
any
Your
bad
kids
energy.
know.
So yeah.
yes.
So
Yeah.
really finding yourself in your
Yeah.
in your relationship, love your man, love your relationship, grow
Yeah.
together, like
Right.
be
Yes,
together.
yes,
but
yes.
remember that
I love it.
you're your first love.
Yes, the
Every day,
relationship
fall in
to
love.
self.
That's it.
Which we have yet to make an episode
So,
about,
yeah,
but I
just
promise
saying.
y'all will be on that because I want to talk about. I'd love to have you ladies back on.
Yeah.
About the relationship to self and what that means spiritually.
Yes.
and
Oh,
how to
yeah.
maintain that. I would
Yeah,
love to
that'd
talk
be a
to.
really good
Maintain.
episode. 'Cause
So-
that's where we're at.
Yes.
it is.
That's where we're at.
It is.
So y'all tune in for that episode. That'll be coming here soon. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
One step forward, 2 steps backwards, yeah. Immature lover who don't use big words, yeah. I don't need convincing at all.